Okay, cool. So I'll just do a quick intro take on the blockchain. I am sitting outside, so if it's a bit windy, you might hear some scratches on the mic. I don't think you'll hear that. There's a grinder in the background every now and then, so when it does come on, I'll just keep quiet for a while and wait till they stop and then continue again. Yeah, so okay, now that I said that, so just to give a quick introduction on the blockchain space. So as you know, we're looking at yo baby, we're looking at different setups for the actual blockchain. As you know, the way it operates is on a transactional basis, and each specific block has a unique timestamp, a nonce, and so forth, which effectively is a distributed ledger. It's okay. It's okay. It's because he saw you now. Which effectively is a distributed ledger um, that is being kept across nodes on a network. So instead of a bank keeping everything in a centralized space, you have this on a distributed ledger, and it can be verified by all those nodes. These nodes will follow a mathematical cryptographic algorithm. The way that the information exchange is also using a cryptographic hash algorithm, and the way the documents get signed is using a public key which encrypts it and it gets decrypted with a private key. Um, the actual consensus mechanism between the nodes would use a certain mathematical principle, which typically is the Byzantine fault tolerance, right? Which is based on the example rather of a few Byzantine emperors sending out a note to one another, and how they can verify that the note is actually from the right source. And there's a mathematical association that you can do there. I think the number is 3 to 1. So if three people have verified it, you can be pretty sure that it's going to be accurate out of a set of four. So okay, with Ethereum, it makes it a bit more. It steps it up a notch in the fact that it introduces the ideology of a virtual machine, where that specific virtual machine allows you to execute code on the blockchain, right? So this gives in the idea of smart contracts, which was kind of alluded to by the cyberpunks. And this ideology of smart contracts allows logic to be executed on the blockchain in a trustless fashion. Those specific smart contracts themselves can also hold value. In the case of Ethereum, this would be ETH, but it could be any value add for a specific token. The reason why the ETH would exist in the case of Ethereum is effectively to compute the necessary logic within the smart contract by something which is called gas fees, which is just to avoid infinite loops and so forth, for example, within the smart contracts when they are executed. As far as the users go, they don't necessarily need to have the knowledge pertaining to how smart contracts operate. They just need to attain the specific asset that they would want by utilizing the technology. The same like when somebody buys a car or a house or whatever, right? People don't care what is in the contract. People just sign stuff, right? They just want the thing. It's like when someone goes to a car dealership, they're not gonna want to. They don't ask too much questions about the contract in the car dealership anyway, right? Just hang on, sorry, they're just busy at the back row. Okay, cool. They're just busy here by the neighbors. So yeah, like I was saying, um, that value add, right? People don't care about that what's in the contract. They don't care like what it says, etc. Stuff like that. You know what I mean? It's just an aeroplane. It's aeroplane that flies you. So of course, what that implies is that in the same way with a smart contract, people don't need to understand the logic and the mechanism of how a smart contract operates. All they need to know is that a smart contract is a trustworthy source and a trustworthy mechanism whereby which value can be exchanged, and that it's an effective manner in which they can attain their assets and they can trust it, right? And it's better than maybe certain solutions that are out there. Not in the sense that it's maybe technologically better, but rather that it's more efficient for the specific user, because people tend to want to do things that are easier and requires less effort. It's just a natural circumstance of how we are as humans, right? So the blockchain also provides this mechanism. Obviously, this would challenge certain other parts of industry, and some people may view it as a way that, say for example, they can lose business or whatever. But it's the case of anything else, it's the speed of innovation and how the markets change. If we look, for example, at the industrial revolution, and you see how the introduction of AC current actually changed the market, and we moved away from coal power sources in locomotives at factories and so forth. And with that innovation, we had the electricity grid, and people in industry decided to plug into that. Obviously, the guys in coal went more out of business because of that, you know what I mean. But they had to change the speed of innovation and their approach, because the market adapted to something new, similar to what's happening right now with the green economy. So in my opinion, it's not necessarily that it's a deterrent that would stop certain people from buying into the ideology of the blockchain, if it's speeding up market, if it's something that the masses are going to want to do because it improves their life. It would effectively just imply that such businesses would need to either innovate or they're going to be left out, and that's just historically we've seen that to be true. That's how the market operates, and effectively how things tend to go in life. So with all of these things in the blockchain, one of the main I would say something that's really imperative, right, in the blockchain space is the security of smart contracts. It's of utmost importance, because if a smart contract is hackable, effectively that is like an ATM being able to just be pulled blank, right? Or for example, somebody just being able to write a contract and not pay somebody, for example, something like that. So this would avoid that, in that space. It would avoid needing to be worried about that if you have secure smart contracts. And this is where there's so much room for innovation and so much room for improvement. There have been multiple smart contract acts from which we learn from, the same way that there were many mistakes when the electricity grid was initially released, and there's a lot of other things that mistakes have been made as a part of when you start out something new, right? Like I always say, fear, or rather failure, is just saying that your first attempt is limited, and the first time that you're trying something, it's going to be limited, right? So in this space then, in the blockchain, it's really imperative for us to ensure that we have secure smart contracts that users can trust, that users know it's going to work. People's not going to go out, sign a contract to buy a car and not be sure that they're going to get that car. They're pretty much expecting that because they're trusting the dealership, what they stand for, and so forth. And likewise, we should have a similar standard in the space of smart contracts, right? And following the standard and practices should be well defined, well practiced, and should be an industry way of doing things, the same way like things can get signed off in the mining industry and so forth. We should need, or rather require, associated mechanisms within the blockchain space. And this is really a great space. I mean, we also have the case of DeFi, decentralized finance, and how those things operate, and just the flexibility that users have. It's a whole new change in the economy and how things operate that this blockchain technology is introducing, and it's an opportunity that can cause a huge reverberation, right, of cataclysmic proportions. I really believe that, and it's just, we can also see that the generations that are coming out, they are more technologically advanced, they are more keen to using their computers, and they are more likely to grab onto a technology like this, right? It's very early days now, so the technical aspect of it is kind of quite a requirement for you to be involved in a way that is really productive or really lucrative to you, right? And I believe this is going to change once we start adding the layers of simplicity on top of the complexity, so that it's extrapolated to users to then use this technology and change the world, and thereby, change people's lives and thereby change the world. That's my opinion on the blockchain technology.